guys, Chris with Engadget. We are here today with the T-Mobile Comet, which is T-Mobile USA's branded version of the Huawei Ideos that we first saw introduced back at IFA this year. Now, this phone is interesting on a number of levels. First of all, it was co-designed directly with Google, presumably because Google wanted a decent, very low-end Android device on the market. And by all accounts, with the Ideos and the Comet, they appear to have gotten it. It's also interesting because T-Mobile is selling it for $9.99 on contract, making it by far the lowest price, subsidized price for an Android device on the U.S. market. In fact, if you go to T-Mobile's site right now, it's actually free on contract. You don't even have to pay $10. So let's take you on a quick look at this thing. Just flipping it around a bit, it is a very small phone. And it's designed pretty conservatively. It's not, it doesn't look high end, but it certainly doesn't look low end either. Other than the fact that it's small and it's not the thinnest phone in the world. I think it clocks in around 13 millimeters, which looks appropriate for a phone of this size. It doesn't look chunky or chubby. On the back, you have a 3.2 megapixel fixed focus camera. These look like dual LED flashes, but that's actually the grill for the speakerphone, which is pretty loud and clear. It works pretty well. And right below that, you see the With Google logo, which is indicative of their partnership. On front, this area below the screen is interesting because this looks like it should be an optical pad. We've mentioned this when we talked about the Ideos in the past. This looks like an optical pad, like you should be able to scroll around the screen by doing that. But you can't. It's actually just a push-button select, and this chrome ring around it is a D-pad, a four-way D-pad. Then on the left and right, you have send and end buttons, which are getting pretty rare on Android devices these days. But you know, they work. The send button takes you directly into the phone app, and the end button, I think, functions the same as the home button, essentially. Whatever app you're in, if you press it, it takes you back out to home. Speaking of the home button, you have capacitive touch buttons directly below the screen that are the standard Android 4, the back, menu, home, and search buttons. And I did mention capacitive. This is a 2.8-inch QVGA capacitive display, so it's not very high resolution, but that's kind of countered by the fact that it's pretty small. So let's look at the software a little bit. It's very, very stock. T-Mobile has added a couple things into ROM. You have Swipe, Documents to Go, the light version. It's view only. You have Telenav, and you have T-Mobile's My Account and My Device apps. You also have this Notepad app, which is next to useless. And it appears to be thrown together either by T-Mobile or more likely Huawei at the last second. It says, no notes available. Please make use of Add Note menu option to create a new note. So kind of not great English there. And you know, there are certainly better free Notepad apps in the market. We would have preferred that they not include this in the ROM. And there's not a lot of functionality here either, just a very basic note taker. Now you'll notice I have the standard Android keyboard up right now, and it works surprisingly well, considering that this is only a 2.8-inch display. We really didn't have too many problems with it. We thought that we would, but you know, when you take into account the predictive text, it works pretty well. But as I mentioned, Swipe, you can switch over to that if you want to. There we go. And it works pretty well. Now, the phone isn't the fastest in the world. The processor isn't gigahertz class by any stretch of the imagination. But I think that that's countered a little bit by the fact that it's only driving a QVGA display. So it does feel sluggish in places, but not overly so. You can see pretty smooth transitions between screens, and that's not terrible there. You can bring up the browser and Engadget up there, and this is where you might see it start to bog down a little bit. It does have automatic screen orientation, as you'd expect. And we'll let it load here. There we go, we have some content up. By the way, I'm on Wi-Fi right now, just so you have an idea of what's going on. That's really not that bad in terms of scrolling speed. 2.8 inches small enough so that multi-touch is almost not useful. And actually, it doesn't appear to be allowing me to multi-touch anyway, so maybe this display is not multi-touch capable, which is interesting. I didn't notice that before. And actually, I just installed a Maps update, so let's go in there and test that. We'll confirm. And this is where you're really starting to see some of that slowness. Anytime now. Yeah, it's frozen right up. So I spoke a little too soon, though. It's a little on the slow side in places. There we go. Yep, no multi-touch here either. Very interesting. Okay, so that's something to take note of. Not the end of the world. Like I said, on a screen this small, pinching becomes kind of hard anyway, so that's not a deal breaker. So that's a quick look at the T-Mobile Comet.